Hello, welcome to the Record Celtic podcast. I'm Mick Gannon. I'm joined by Graeme Young on this lovely Monday afternoon. Weekend after Celtic kind of cruised into the Premier Sports quarter-final where they're going to meet Rangers at Ibrox. We'll get to that later. But listen, this week it's all about Europe. It's Champions League playoff, the nerve-shredding showdown with LASK for a shot in the Champions League group stages. How are you, Graeme? How's things?
Really good, mate. All good here. I know it's an exciting week, isn't it? As you say, like there's been these playoffs have been the kind of bane of Celtic's existence for a few years, but I think there's maybe hopes it'll be different this time.
It's a mega fortnight. I mean, this weekend, this next 2 weeks are huge. You get the last few weeks of the transfer window, these playoffs. The next 2 weeks could really set the tone for the entire season. And then there's a double header against Rangers to look forward to once it's all over. But we'll get to that in due course. I think we'll start, Youngie. Well, let me look back. We're going to obviously dig into the Champions League game. Well, let me look back at the weekend against Dundee United. I was up there at Tannadice. Absolutely bonkers game, really. I mean, Celtic won 4-0. I thought they played really well at times. Yep. But United hit the post and bar, hit the woodwork 5 times. I don't think I've seen that before.
No,
it was wild.
Oh, it was completely wild, and it was. It kind of shows that's kind of the one weakness of Celtic so far, where I would say that as much as even at Kilmarnock as well, and to be fair, the teams that commit like Kilmarnock, Dundee United were pretty game as well. It seems that you can still create chances on Celtic, but the other side is obviously the fact that Celtic look a level above them last season, and all the good Celtic teams in history, or in this kind of modern era, have been built on kind of 3 or 4 attacking players that just eliminate a team that's up for it or doing well and making chances because they're so clinical. And you could see that it was a cracking game. I think they'll be a fun team to watch this year. And I know with Martin O'Neill, when he took them, came back for another season, I think there's maybe kind of preconceived notions that about the way they play it. But that stuff I knew the first time around, that the long ball team was always a bit overrated. They never really were. They were a front foot team that gets the ball in the box and tries to score goals. And I think that's what this team is. There's plenty of players there that look capable of doing that and scoring goals and making chances. And it was a fun watch. It was a good game. And I think Camilo Duran, there's another one who I don't think the goal is needed in the sense that he was already shown that he was a proper player, but it just gives these type of players who are obviously full of talent a bit more confidence. It was a cracking watch, honestly, and you were a lucky guy to get that. Did you get everything in the match report, mate? Did it all make it? It was one of those ones, isn't it?
Just about with tight deadlines on a Saturday night. It was just about. I think United hit the bar with the last shot of the game, make it the 5th one. Hit the bar was a bit of a last minute change. But I think a lot of the ones that would work were from distance. I mean, I think if any of them go in, it changes the game, but also complete worldies. I mean, I think 3 out of 4 were from long distance. But I thought Celtic played pretty well. I mean, it's kind of ideal. I mean, they obviously rested Kieran Tierney. We got another couple of games in the same time for Hogh, and like you said, I thought Duran was excellent again. I think he's coming out, and I think that role he's actually getting really good at it. And coming off the right hand side. They also get game time for the new recruits, Mika Bauer and Hussein Hassan. But in terms of the only performance, I mean, obviously it scales left back. I thought. What do you make of Sebastian Tounekti? I must admit, at half time, we were talking, and I thought it looked like a very much the usual Sebastian Tounekti, kind of just that one half a beat too much on the ball. They didn't quite get his deliveries away. I thought if big Kasper Hogh is in the box, he's going to be pulling his hair out, waiting for a ball in the box. But then the second half, I thought he came out and I thought he was more direct. I thought he was really good. He got his assist, he got his goal. I thought he performed quite well as well. I still think that's an area Celtic maybe need to look at, especially in terms of cover. Jota's still going to be months away, I think, from anywhere near getting available. So, but what do you make of him? What do you make of Tounekti? Is he going to be the long term left winger for Celtic?
Well, I've actually got a wee secret for inside the dressing room, Mick. It was Martin O'Neill hypnotised him and told him that he's coming on at half time. That's why he was so good. That's his specialty. So he played the first half. He only came on at the second. So that Tounekti, but to be fair, you've nailed it. Like, he's probably, do you know, you get players that are just completely unfit for purpose, like Balikwisha, right? Would be fit that. But Tounekti's one of those frustrating players where it's quite clear there's loads of ability. You saw his debut. I think that's when he was at that kind of. He was more free when he arrived, and then it kind of the pressure of playing for Celtic weighed on him last season. But the one caveat was these substitute cameos, and as you say, the second half was totally different. And that's the thing he does give you when he doesn't think as much and he makes quick decisions. There was one pass in the first half where he kind of threaded it through, and I thought that's neat and tidy. But wingers should be making multiple passes like that a game. And in the second half, you're right, he was full of the beans. He's much better driving downhill on the ball and just cutting in and not really thinking. And that's what the goal was like. It was good. I think that left side is an issue because you've got Tounekti. Yeah, Yang's probably better on the right, isn't he, than he is the left? But I think with Yang, they've hinted at it, Maloney and O'Neill, that he's almost a cover for Tierney, and you get a great work rate out when he's probably, if he's fit, a good candidate to start against LASK. Jota's on the way back, but there's not that guaranteed left wing starter the way you probably feel on the right. And that's, I think, again, we've talked about Duran, like right wing's probably not his preferred position, but he's playing at a pretty high level. Yang can obviously play on that side as well, and then the new signing Hassan, you've got your well covered there, but it's on that left wing you just feel that if there was a player in the market that was the real deal, and that could, I don't think Tounekti will go this summer, but that is the kind of thing you would maybe do. But while he's here, I thought that was a much more positive performance, and he has had plenty of fun. His highlight video would be more than fine, wouldn't it? 6 minutes a decent more bit. If you watch from week to week, game to game, there's still things you can iron out, but there's again, as much as we're talking him up, you still feel that if Yang is fit, he's probably the more likely starter on Wednesday night. Just with that kind of dovetailing with Tierney, I think they do quite well together, covering for each other. So, but he's got plenty of talent. He seems a nice guy as well. You've probably spoke to him a few times. I don't think he's on. I think his passion's maybe a bit misguided. It's a bit badge kissing at times. Not, and he's trying to pump himself up.
A terrible cynic.
No, I know. No, he's not a badge kisser. Like, sorry, I'll edit what I mean. He literally does kiss the badge, but I think it's only through passion to do well. He's trying to get himself up. He wants to be a Celtic player. He wants to do well, he's probably quite easy to root for that way. But I know that was more like it from him that night.
A bit like you and I, mate. He looks good on YouTube for a few minutes here and there. actually, scrub back, maybe not. I think he's decent enough. I would expect Celtic to go and get another winger in the final weeks of the window, and I think probably on loan. I can see them getting a winger on loan. In the last year, probably late in the window, to keep them tiding over and see how Jota gets on when he comes back. I'd expect that.
Do you think he could go if it worked that way? Or do you think he's a player they'll keep?
I think at the moment he's probably made himself first choice in the short term. Depending on the level of loan signing they can get, if they can get a loan level signing like a Patrick Roberts loan signing, that would change the dynamic. I think, which I think would be the target, something like that for Celtic. If the loan signs are kind of Joe Mvuka, then I think he's going to be the first choice for a while. If it's that kind of level of loan signing, but Celtic haven't. I mean, there has been a shift in direction at Celtic this summer. I mean, you can see it. I mean, the kind of the squad filling kind of signings and the kind of development punts have gone this summer. It's been concentrated, targeted signings. It's still quality over quantity. I still think they could do with quality and quantity, or a quantity of quality. But I think they're still lacking in certain areas. We'll probably get to that again before we'll talk about the game ahead. But yeah, I think a left winger of pedigree coming in, even on loan with a view to buy, I think would be my shopping list in terms of a Celtic recruitment team with a few days remaining. But there's a lot. I don't know what you think, Graeme. I mean, ringed a month ago, there was a lot of negativity and a lot of kind of unrest behind the scenes. It seems to be a lot more positivity around Celtic right now. I mean, it's at 10 goals in 3 domestic games so far. It's a brilliant start to the season. I mean, the Dundee game, I thought they played better than some people made it out. I thought they were actually all right. Second half, I thought they played quite well. Could have been 2 or 3 ahead and comfortable. I thought the Kelly performance was much more like it, and they followed that on with a win. That's a dangerous time. I mean, think back to Tannadice last season and the results up there and performances. Weirdly, Celtic played better in the Wilfred Nonsi defeat up there. I mean, they should have been 5-0 about half time, but unfortunately, that was the night when poor Johnny Kenny had the shooting boots on the wrong feet and they get punished. And then the next time they were up there with Martin O'Neill, they were woeful and never kicked a ball, and deservedly lost 2-0 on the sand pit up there back then. So I mean, at least there's grass on the pitch at Tannadice, but there's also a change in mood. I don't think it's simple as just the signings, but I think the signings have definitely changed the kind of the feel around the club, especially Kasper Hogh. I don't know if you. I mean, he didn't score at the weekend, but I just think him being around has changed everything at Celtic. I mean, he's involved a lot in terms of his movements, dragging defenders left, right, and centre. He's strong, he's physical. You can say his movements terrific. He's involved for the kind of much disputed second goal when the ball's hit his foot and his hand, and well, he was getting wrestled to the ground at the time. I thought they might have let that go because it was either going to be a goal or it was going to be a penalty and a red card. I don't know. The rules to me, listen, let's not get down that road because we're here all day. But what do you make of him and the impact he's made? And I say, even when he's not scoring, I think just being around has changed the whole kind of feeling around Celtic.
It's one of these inspired signings, Mick, where it just works. The Bodo curse, right? So Bodo players don't travel well, right? Well, this guy's he's not Norwegian. He's had a career before Bodo, and they kind of revived his career. So we've ended up this guy. He's full of the beans, full of belief, and he's just the perfect signing. So if you take a good Bodo playmaker and put him in a mid-table Serie A team, or like, it's not always going to translate. He's gone from a dominant pass-heavy team to a dominant pass-heavy team, and it's just the dream fit. He looks the perfect. He seems to understand Celtic in the sense that, like, this is the right type of team for him. Obviously, he's got such a charisma about him as well, and that genuinely matters. Is the more players you see come through the doors over the years, see someone with a kind of cult of personality and ability to kind of just get fans on side. That, I think, that matters so much. And you've made the point as well that this idea that he's a kind of fox in the box is completely underselling him. Like the subtle movements, the shifting at the back post, the inside out runs. I think sometimes his hold up and spin play is really good as well. Like and this is where they talk about signings can kind of change a culture or a feel in the dressing room. There's no way that Celtic players, the senior players, knew that they needed the type of players that had been in previous years, and he's a really high level striker. When Kyogo came at first, it's the kind of similar impact, isn't it? Just a transformative striker that can kind of give you an extra in the final third. And I just love his accountability. Like, he's a proper moaner as well. There was a bit in the second half where he won a header into a kind of decent area, and Nygren hadn't made the run. And honest to goodness, like, he chewed him out for a few minutes. Like, it's like you've got to be in there, and then 2 minutes later, Nygren scores and they're best pals again. But I think stuff like that's massive. Like, I think he's a full package that way. And I know the 3 goals came in the one game, but there's been so much to like across the 3. Like, you think expected goals, a phrase that Martin O'Neill hates, but this guy gets in the right places every week. And he goes, oh well, it's Champions League next. Is maybe but he isn't. He's this has been his level. Like, he was excellent in the knockouts for Bodo last year, and this is the type of player where the little half yards, the small margins make the difference. Like a ball ricocheting in the box, and you've got a striker that knows where to be. I think it's massive. I think he's been, obviously you're only 3 games in. The sample size is small, but there's no reason why it feels like the perfect fit. And again, I think it's Kasper who you think of when you're trying to weigh up this game, that I think he will be the difference maker. I think there's multiple players who really help, but just the chances that come into the box, I think he's good enough to score them.
You mentioned Nygren. He is one. I mean, he's had an incredible start to the season. I mean, his numbers last year were terrific, but some people weren't that chuffed with other aspects of his game. I think you're seeing now how he shines when he's got a proper striker up ahead of him, and it's not his link-up play is great with Kasper Hogh, but the fact that Hogh's dragging defenders away, making space for him as well, I think he's the one you're now seeing the benefit of having Nygren floating around in behind when there's a proper striker in there, a proper guy who knows where to run, where to be, where to take defenders out of the way. Nygren's the one who's benefiting so much, and no wonder the two of them got some kind of weird bromance going on so far, because he's really, what is it? He's had 3 goals and 3 assists in the first 3 games. I mean, he's flying. He's the one. I mean, I think he's now become the one that Celtic are now sold down the angles. They've lost Dice and Maida, but I think now they've got to make sure they keep hold of him. He can't go anywhere in the next 2 weeks. He's got to be. I think he'll obviously be involved in these qualifiers, but he can't go anywhere because he's now stepping to the fore. And I think you're seeing him now being the all-round player that Celtic thought they were getting maybe 12 months. Listen, actually, I rewind back 12 months, I think Celtic thought they were getting a winger when he signed 12 months ago. We still were crying out for wingers, and he was the first one in the door, and it turned out he was actually more of a kind of 10. He played off in the wide areas and didn't really suit him. I think he struggled with the strikers last year. I think Dyson Maeder, we know his I think he had a great season last season up to the end, to be honest with you. But he's unpredictable. He must be murder to play behind because you don't really know where he's going to go. Because I don't think he knew where he's going to go sometimes. Then you'd like Johnny Kenny, was raw. Any actual whose movement, his footwork was brilliant, but he's not exactly a guy who's moving about a lot. Do you know what I mean? A lot of times he's pulling the ball at his feet 40 yards from goal, and he's not exactly spinning and get back in the box or dragging a defender away from you. So I don't think he helped in that respect. I think who's going to be the one who's going to shine up front and get the best out of Nygren. But listen, that takes neatly on because we've got obviously the last game, the first leg on Wednesday night. There's some big questions for Martin O'Neill, isn't there? Nygren's a nailed on. Who's a nailed on? But the midfield is the one for me, whereas the big question mark is how do you see Martin O'Neill lining up the midfield for LASK? Because obviously Ingles now away and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is banned, which seemed to come as a complete surprise to everyone at Celtic. For some reason, nobody checked this out last year. It reminds me of last year when we asked Martin who he was picking for his 3 out of 6 players to add to the squad in January for Europe, and he's like, you only get 3? I don't think nobody told him. They'd only the door 2 minutes, and nobody told him that, by the way, you only get 3 of these guys at the 6. And nobody at that point said, oh, by the way, Oxlade-Chamberlain isn't actually going to be available. So that was a bit of a mistake, but it leaves Celtic a wee bit light in there, doesn't it? How do you see it?
Well, it's been stressed, I think, within Celtic, and just the way they line up, that Mika Bauer's not the Ingles replacement. I think that will prove true by the end of the transfer window, but he's definitely got to be the Ingles replacement on Wednesday night, because I just think if Oxlade-Chamberlain potentially, I think that could have been it, McGregor, Oxlade-Chamberlain with Nygren ahead, but obviously without Oxlade-Chamberlain playing it means Martin O'Neill needs to think differently. Luke McCowan, I don't mean this disrespectful, I just feel there's certain games where
when anyone says that, usually what follows is massively disrespectful.
Right, well, like, I would say exactly right. Well, maybe I'll be slightly, I feel there's certain games where McCowan, if it doesn't start well for him, that he ends up in a panic where even, do you know, the Rangers game actually ended up having a few good moments, but the Rangers home win in the way they run in, there was a few dicey moments for him. He just doesn't get on the game straight away. He's full endeavour, but I just think Bauer's passing, you could see there was plenty of skill and the ability to turn in tight spaces. What you would lose with a Bauer and McGregor too is LASK are very physical in midfield. They love a high press, but I think you just need to go. I don't think there's that many ways to skin a cat here, in the sense you get Bauer, McGregor, Nygren. You yourself, in terms of Celtic, you would need to press high, and then that's on you to kind of just hopefully come out in a bit of a firefight. I think that's the way to go. There is a lack of options there. They obviously have got a bit of time for maybe a bit of last minute transfer magic, but it's highly unlikely that will pay off into a starter for a European game. But I think it has to be. I don't think there's that many ways around it, unless you've got the whiteboard out and come up with something different. I don't know how else they can really do it.
I think you're right. I think Bauer is not the Ingles profile replacement. Definitely not. Different kind of player. I think Ingles is a big miss. I think I know he divided opinion with some Celtic fans, and there's a lot of games when people would say, well, we didn't even notice him. He made no impact. I think a lot of his work, and it is a bit of a cliche, a lot of his work was unseen. I think in terms of covering the pitch and cutting down angles and all that stuff, I think he's a proper player. And he's a big miss for a European game, because I think he's better against better opposition as well. Yeah. So he's a big miss. I think Bauer is I think he can play as a number 8, more advanced than that. I think you're right. I think he'll come in and play in front. I think McGregor will be anchoring with Bauer and Nygren. The only question, I only had half an hour. I thought he looked decent when he came on at Tannadice. He had a nice wee flick for one of the goals, wee cheeky flick on. He caught out one of his wee flicks as well, but he wasn't shy. He wanted the ball into feet. He was neat and tidy. He had a wee hint. To me, he looks a wee bit like Elijah Just, a wee bit like Motherwell, who I thought Celtic should have went and bought. So if he's anything like Elijah Just, I think that'll do the trick for Celtic. He's not big. He's quite a wee. Like you say, I think LASK are fairly big side. So that's the only concern. There's not a lot of physicality in that middle of the park. I still think Celtic need a big bruiser in there that can control a ball. But they're not that easy to find, and there's not going to find it in the next 24 hours. So I think, he's got to go. The question for me is, we've all just forgot about Rio Hatate. Do you know what I mean? Rio Hatate has completely gone off a cliff. I mean, ordinarily you think, Hatate would just start in the middle of the park, and that's without a doubt. But he's so far now off the grid. He's almost like these people talking about him in the past tense when he's still in the building. But I know he's going to probably go in the next few weeks, and he looks a bit checked out when you see him. But it's a guy with a lot of appearances for Celtic, a lot of big games, and he's just gone. I mean, is there any chance of him getting lobbed back in for this game?
I don't think so. You heard his fan chant the other day as well, and you just feel that's kind of almost like his sign, when it's almost it's crazy to think if you go back a couple of years. Now, my head, his last couple of years in the Celtic jersey were just the best of them. But at one point, Hatate was as good as Kyogo was. Hatate, somebody like, you ask Chris Sutton who watches these games, and I don't think he extols the virtues of anyone more than Hatate. He was kind of like the Celtic fans' favourite player, wasn't he, for a good couple of years, and a team packed of good players. But he's been reduced to such a level that. Then the one thing that I would obviously, you remember the cameo last season at Ibrox, the tweet where he obviously scores the penalty, but how he played in that second half. Remember this kind of groundswell of that's the real Rio Hatate, and we're going to see. But I never deep down believed that. I felt that the form's been so inconsistent after the Leipzig game as well, when he was so good. There was a drop off again. I think that's the worry with him, and for all his many attributes, it just feels like he's in the squad, he's there, but I just don't think he'll get the call first, and that is kind of a sadness for a player that at one point is one of the most creative kind of. You talk about all these numbers at 6s and 8s and 10s, but as what you would call an 8, wouldn't you? A player that can go both ways. He's one of the better ones that's played in Scottish football in recent memory, and but I just don't see it. I think he'll be on the bench, and I don't think it would come on. I think that's his role now in the team. That which is kind of, and as you say, about the players are linked as well with the actual Ingles replacement. Some, especially Seeger, who's got versatility. He looks like the type of guy that could be the anchor on a European night, and maybe that will be the one. Like as much as there's been good vibes about Celtic in recent weeks. An unimpressive result or performance, and suddenly you're straight back on. Could we not had X and Y in the door as well? So they're still in that kind of perilous stage where they've got more talent in the door, but they need to make it pay off on the night as well. They can't fall short in areas that fans are concerned about, or instantly heat will be back on the decision makers at the club.
No, that's it. This playoff is make a break in that respect. Yeah, and just in terms of Rio, I thought there was a last season a couple of good performances in Europe. I thought against Sturm Graz he was good. It seems like a lifetime ago. I thought away to Feyenoord, I thought he was good. When Neil picked off the win in Rotterdam. But then again, you go to the kind of the Bologna game when he gets himself sent off. And then by that point, I think Martin Neal was losing a bit of trust in him. I just don't know what went wrong this season. I mean, I think I spoke to him. He doesn't do much media stuff through the years, but I spoke to him on a kind of one-to-one basis for an interview last summer in Portugal in pre-season, and he was talking about how big a year it was for him and how determined he was to get to the World Cup with Japan, and it was like he was seemed to be quite motivated. And then you see him kind of as the season goes on. He just looked in a bit of a huff. He just looked like, I think the Japan dream was fading by the week, and he seemed to be just a bit, I don't know, a bit huffy and a bit kind of fed up. And I think Martin Neal, I don't think anything happened with Martin Neal. I don't think there's been like a fallout. I don't think there's been anything. I don't think there's been like a bust up or a fallout. I think Martin Neal just gradually lost a bit of faith in him. Didn't like the kind of huffing and puffing about the training ground, and he's just faded away. And I think you're right. I think he's now almost like kind of a forgotten man. I mean, he's not only played. I mean, since the game against, I mentioned that game against Dundee United up at Tannadice in the sandpit. I mean, I think there's been again 11 or 12 games since then. I don't think he's had a couple of appearances from the bench, maybe.
Yeah, it's not been many.
He's not started the game. He's not been involved in any game this season. I don't think he started any. Didn't start any of the games after that game at Tannadice. So he's just been completely sent to Siberia. So I would be surprised, but it'd be handy if he can somehow in the next 24 hours find his smile and find a kind of bolt of energy. It'd be handy if he puts his hand up and say, I can come in and do a job here.
It's the real Hatate that played in those Hearts and Hibs and Rangers get, that first burst, and he was always good after, but there was a kind of youthful exuberance, the way he played at one point when it was a level that was kind of like, it was the exact perfect fit for Ange at that time. If you could bottle that player and put him on the pitch tomorrow night, or Wednesday night, then you're in business, aren't you? But alas.
But it looks like he's going to be a soon-to-be former Celtic player. But in terms of current ones now, what did you make of the wee cameo from Hassan up at Tannadice? I thought he looked a wee bit rusty. By all accounts, he's been kind of training on his own over in Spain, so he's not had much match fitness. And I thought it looked a wee bit. I thought there was some nice wee signs that in terms of his footwork. I thought it looks as though he's got a touch. But it's early days, and it's probably too early to chuck him out of this game, isn't it?
I think so as well. And Martin O'Neill kind of intimated at that in the Friday Pretty. There was 4 or 5 caveats added when he was talking about obviously holiday after the World Cup, and then he's not done much work with Oviedo, so it was all there. And I think you probably saw that in that performance. It was a wee bit rusty, but like you say, like the version that kind of terrorised Argentina, and I know that feels like it's a bit of a milestone around his neck already. This one kind of signature display, but I think people watch him week in, week out, see a winger that's constantly trying to push defenders back, and I think that's what Celtic will get and what they want. That's why they bought him. But again, to me, Duran, they're not going to change the shape against LASK, are they? So you're going in that kind of Yang safety option, or Tounekti for a bit more firepower on the left, Duran on the right. Seems like the obvious starter, with Hassan as a good option off the bench. But you can see there's plenty to like about it as well. It's a tough one as well that you had a piece last week, I think, made a kind of compelling case that you remember those days of yesteryear where players were literally bought off World Cups, when data and analytics were a bit light.
Oleg Solanke.
That's it. Celtic had won their own. Remember Chaduri coming to join Key as well after 2010. And to be fair, I think there's been a few over the years.
There's been loads over the years.
But I don't think that's the case. And I think as we all know, that the first true link emerged before the Argentina game. So you can't blame Celtic for you can't say they've just kind of jumped in the back of that. So and that would never be the case, obviously. And I think we know it's a bit more analytics led this season. But there's probably loads. I think he'll be a player actually when I think ahead to the away tie, that it just seems, one of these games where maybe if the game is getting stretched, I think that's where that natural pace will be important. But I think he might be a cameo job on Wednesday night, and let the others kind of lead it for the front, especially Duran. But I think that's how they'll go for the off.
He's not quite there yet, because I think there was a chance at one point during the break the other night at Tannadice when he got the ball in half-wheel line, and the fullback had pushed right up, so he did have 40 yards of space in behind, and he kind of opted to kind of cut inside and knock it in, took the kind of safer option. I think if he's fully fit, he's going to take that boy on and run him up the line. I always think the old junior trick is knock it past him and run. Remember the Gareth Bale one where he ran at the park right around again? That trick's gone out of fashion.
It's funny you say that, because I know got the best at a player that loved that was Didier Agathe. Remember in those open space, he loved that. That was his early kind of a ball up and just beat them with pace. And
I can't would do that. Knock it back, knock it beyond the fullback, and just give him a foot race and see how you go on. But I think he'll be all right. I think you're right. I think he'll actually. It'll take a bit of time to get up to full speed, but I think you'll see the benefit of him, perhaps even in Champions League or Europe, when Celtic are having to sit deep and then hit in the break. That'll be. Celtic have always had pace in recent years, and it's served him well, and he's going to bring that as well. But like you say, I think it's probably going to be too early for him to be kicked straight in against LASK. What do you make of this? I mean, I don't know how much you know about LASK. I mean, I've started doing my research in the last few weeks, obviously. I think it's a dangerous tie. I mean, I know that they haven't got the sexy signings and recruitment that RB Salzburg have had through the years, but they won the Austrian double. They've started the season really well. I mean, they've scored 9 goals in their first 3 games in the league, and I think it's put 7 past some lower league team in the League Cup as well. So they're scoring a barrel of goals. I think this is a tricky tie. I mean, so don't have any household names in the squad, and on paper you think, well, Celtic should have enough to deal with this, but I think they're going to be difficult. I don't know. What do you reckon?
100%, and I think unfairly last year as well, that title win as well with Graz, and Salzburg, it was kind of, to be fair, they seem to be a team that get better in the second half of the season, and what's really benefited them as well, that it's been such a strong start. This feels, sometimes you get a opportune winner of the kind of, say, top 8 to 12 leagues in Europe, and they kind of fade away quite quickly, but they're well coached. Manager's been about forever. Every team, this is what he likes, this kind of high press, man on man. So they seem capable. They're riding the crest of the wave, and the kind of goals there's parts of each game as well. Watch the highlights there, just all the different games, and there's definitely lulls in the performances, starting off a bit slow, but then when they find their feet, they're on it. Don't think they're going to come gung ho at Celtic, but I think the aggression in their display will be try to disrupt Cal McGregor. I think they'll watch teams try to go man on man with Cal. I think that's what it is. How I would say the best example of that kind of style was Bodo against Ange, where Knutsen just absolutely bottled up Celtic. Every time it shifted, and again when you watch them, it shows you where Celtic, the moan from fans, and I think rightfully so, is that Celtic, where they've regressed in recent years, is a lack of athleticism in the players, and times like just sometimes getting ragdolled in Europe, just stronger players, and I think LASK will test that out. I think they've got big strong guys, and if Celtic aren't able to move it quickly or put them on, I don't think this is a team that will just go in the retreat. I think you need to force them into the retreat, where if Celtic's passing sharp and can break the lines, and Carter Vickers and Trusty are squeezing the game, then I think by nature any team will start to go into a shell, and I think Celtic will need to, LASK are a good enough team, you'll need to force them to do that. But I don't think it'll be some easy. When you look back at like young boys, that the team that Celtic played in the Champions League, this is probably the level of that, maybe slightly above actually, just with the fact that they seem to be trending upwards. So it's not like you're going to be playing some soft touch team. They're Austrian champions, and they look capable of being Austrian champions again. So I think Celtic need to force LASK into retreat rather than they'll come here full of confidence.
Yeah, if it was Sturm Graz or RB, it would be viewing it completely differently, I think. Yeah. Because it's not quite the same name. They won their first title in, I think, 50 odd years or something like that last season. So yeah, they're definitely no mugs. I just think, what do you think is a good result taken in the second legs? I just hark back to last year, the Kairat game, and 0-0 at half after the first leg was a bit of a nightmare, really, having to go to Kazakhstan. I think we all still thought Celtic would go there and nick it, but their home record is obviously pretty good. Probably the travelling problems and time difference would make it a real tricky tie away from home. But what do you think would be a good result in the first leg here? They Celtic need to take a win to Austria.
I would say so. I would say so.
What I'm trying to say is I don't think it's as important as it was to take a win to Kazakhstan last year.
No, and
I think the tie was so skewed in their favour.
Yeah,
that I think that made it a real difficult one. I think this one, if it's in the balance going to Austria, it would be much more, I'm not saying relaxed about it, but you think you fancy a chance of getting a result out there more than going to Kazakhstan. That's what I mean.
No, that's more than fair. I think the away goal rule has changed the perception of these games as well, where that feeling that Malmo would be an example with Celtic, where they were a dominant 3-1, heading for a 3-1 win, and then Joe Inge Berget, was that his name? Joe Inge Berget, was that his name for the years past? He used to play. I think that was him. Berget that used to play with Celtic. He scored 3-2 against Malmo, and that changed everything with the away goal. That's a different dynamic now, but I do think a win's important.
Celtic Basel, remember Martin Hill's first spell?
Oh, Basel,
first game 3-1, and you think they'll get 1 foot in the Champions League, but that away goal come back to haunt them. I mean, Basel scored twice early on out there, and Celtic chased the game the rest of the match. So that was the one that kept Neil up at night for a long time. Well, they did go on to get to the UEFA Cup final. So
they did. They did that. No, the Basel one, you're right. That was another one for Tales to the Crypt there, isn't it, Mick? That was all, but that was you're right. But I think the takeaway, as I say, the way goal, it's not in existence anymore. I just think a win's a good result, and I think they'll be made to work for it as well. And again, you would imagine Celtic will be a better team with an extra week with the new guys and so forth, and more understanding. I think they'll be capable straight away with Martin O'Neill returning last year. He just brings a legitimacy to Europe with Celtic. He always has. Like he's probably the great modern Celtic manager, but his European record's fearsome. And to get the result, final away, the draw in Bologna as well, winning Stuttgart, these things don't happen by accident. I just think Martin O'Neill's team's got such a backbone. I'm not saying Celtic, that's probably the one thing at times Celtic folded at times, and he was not without a few shockers away in Europe first time around as well with Celtic, and I think that's just the nature of the club at times, how it's gone for them in Europe. But I just fancy Celtic to be robust over the 2 legs. And a win, I think it'd be a good result. That again, it's a Kasper Hogh element. I think it could be a 2-1 game Celtic or a 1-0. You've got this kind of top marksman on the pitch that can, the fine margins that makes a 1-goal win become a 2-goal win, and if that happens, then I think Celtic in business. But it will be a nervy 2 legs. What's your gut feeling on it, Mick? How do you see it going on Wednesday?
These playoff games, I mean, maybe it's just because I've experienced now a good few of them. I mean, absolutely fraught, and I can see, I mean, twists and turns. Excuse me, I go back to the ones, I remember the ones under Brendan Rodgers, the Hapoel-Beersheva game. When they're
10 years ago today.
First leg, 5-2 up, then come back, it's 2-0 down at one point, and mayhem. Even the Astana, they won 5-0 in the first game, and then eventually, I think at half-time, it looked a bit ropey out in Kazakhstan. Ended up in the 8-4 or something ridiculous, but it was a stressful night. The ones that are falling on the wrong side, they need to get through this tie. I mean, was it 7 times out of the last 9 attempts at qualifying, they've fallen. So I think they do need to find a way to get through the tie. But I think they're in better shape. I think they could be in better shape. I think they could have done some business a bit more early to make it a bit less of a gamble. But I think they should have enough to get through it. But it's going to be, I think it's going to be a roller coaster. To be honest, mate, I don't see it with end. I think it could be very stressful. I expect nothing less with these games. I covered the game. I covered the Linz game against Celtic. Again, one of these pre-season ones. It was Ronnie Dyler's. I think it must have been his second. No, his first pre-season. That's what it was under Ronnie Dyler. They played against Linz, LASK Linz. We were back in. I think Dick's Linz back the name now. You like your trivia. Can you name the team? So it's 2014. Yep. Summer 2014. It was a bit of a kind of fringe team. There was no Fraser Forster or Virgil van Dijk who were on the books but didn't play that night. Can you try and name the team from that night? So it's July 2014. A kind of fringy team. I'll give you, if you can name me 5 of them, you'll get pass marks.
Right, 5 of the team that played that night, 2014. Cal McGregor.
No. Oh, yes. Sorry, yes. That's one. Right. You got one. James Forrest. No.
Chris Commons.
James Forrest got injured the previous weekend along with Scott Brown, and they're both out for months. Chris Commons. No.
Tom Rogic.
No.
This is Dedrick Boyata.
No.
Hold on, give me a minute. Jason Denier.
Nope.
Miko Wistig.
No.
So it's a proper fringe team.
No, but I'll give you. There's probably 1, 2,
Ambrose.
3. No. 4. There's probably 4 names you should be. Somebody you probably think a lot of times these guys leave after the window after the season starts. Give me
Lee Griffiths.
Lee Griffiths, yes. Right. Lee Griffiths.
Anthony Stokes still there?
No.
2014 summer.
Someone got a hat trick who was a bit should have been better at Celtic and on to a great career.
Teemu Pukki
hat trick. Yeah, there we go.
Give me one other clue about the ones we've missed.
No, right. I'll tell you. I'll go through it because this is we'll drive folk nuts.
Wish me you don't get any right.
In goal, Zaluska, and then it's replaced by Fusan. Remember Fusan?
Oh, of course I do actually. Yeah.
Adam Matthews, Ewan O'Connell, who would go on and be a Champions League playoff stalwart that year. Stuart Finlay, Waters, I'm not sure. Near Beaton, Henderson was there. Griffiths, Atajic.
Oh, I remember.
Atajic, is that his name?
Yeah. I feel better now you're saying the names.
Yeah, and then McGregor and Pukki. Tony Watt was on the bench. Fred Johnson, remember Fred Johnson? He's on the bench as well. But yeah, so you'd never got that team, I don't think. A very much a pre-season team, lost in the time in history. But listen, at least Celtic will be stronger for this one. But we'll leave it there. It's a huge week. We'll be, I think we're going to be doing stuff all week around the game as well. Youngie, we'll see how they got on. But listen, thanks for watching and listening. I should mention we're in association with our good pals NordVPN. I should have mentioned that at the start, obviously. But check your links below for discounts. Also hit like and subscribe and all that stuff. It'd be nice. But until next time, thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you soon.